Okay, I'd like to demonstrate in this segment how to make winged points or gem points that have these long wings. This one right here and these points right over in here, these are called Gunther points. They're from Oregon, and they have this classic wing configuration and sort of a recurved edge and a fairly narrow tip. Other styles like this are Columbia River gem points, and let me show you some others here. Here's a couple others, and there really are a lot of points like this up in Oregon along the Columbia River. I've seen them in the museums and collected a few myself down in the Willamette Valley. And here's a few more examples of Gunther points. Okay, here's our preform for a Gunther point. This is a material jasper, and this was just sort of roughed out from a flake. Flakes are pretty good for this style of point because they're already thin. A lot of the original flake surface still remains on here. And what I want to do here is I'm just going to use my copper pressure flaker initially, and we'll hollow this all out right in here. So that's pretty easily done. And once we get done with that, we'll show you how to zigzag back and forth and get these wings defined on here. Okay, here we go. We just start setting up platforms here. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just basically take steep angled flakes like this, rather than trying to thin it as I go. Turn it over. Do the same thing over here. Flip it over. There's not much to this. You can see we got a long way to go here before we get into where it's more critical. You can see that edge getting pretty thick. Pretty soon here we'll run some thinning flakes. Kind of thin it ahead of where we're removing all this mass. This flake has a crack going right up in here. I didn't even notice that until I had this thing halfway shaped. So that could be a problem, but we'll try and work through it here. So I keep it in the viewfinder here. Alright. Now I like to put it over the notch, run my flakes a little bit longer. The wings aren't real narrow yet, so there's not a whole lot of danger in this point of shearing them off. When they get narrow, we'll start running our flakes up toward the point rather than directly across. I'll show you what I mean when we get to that stage of the game here. So we ran some thinning flakes there. Now we turn the edge back toward this face so we can remove some thinning flakes up in this direction. Our stem's going to be up in here, so we still got a ways to go here. braid in here. Running my longing or thinning flakes in this notch right here. I'm going to switch to a sharper pressure flaker here. Okay, I'll turn that edge a little bit. Make sure it's in the viewfinder. These are actually a lot easier to make than the win-to points or the narrow entry notches. The only thing you got to worry about this is that you support the piece so there's no pressure on the wings. And I'll have my wings up off the pad here in a minute when we get to that stage of the game, which I think we're approaching right now. Okay, I need to braid that a little bit. Okay, now we want to start removing some mass right in here, kind of define these wings and put a sharp point on them. So when I'm doing that, a lot of times I'll zigzag it. We'll see if we're ready for that yet. Make sure it's in the viewfinder. Okay. Braid that a little bit. Flip it over and do it on this side. I like to start at the tip, thin that first. Braid it a little bit. Flip it over like this. Okay. Notice how I'm pointing it toward the tip of the point. In other words, I got my pressure flaker angle over in this direction. You don't want to push at this angle because it puts too much bending stress on that wing.